Hello and welcome to Build Series Sydney. I'm your host, Danny Clayton, and joining me now, the poetic Perth boy, Dacre Montgomery.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing? How are you doing, sir?
Mate, I'm living the dream. It's been beautiful this last week in Sydney. It's going to get a bit stormy, I think, from today onwards, but
Sure.
It's been beautiful.
Where did you come from?
I came from LA about a week ago, but I come from Perth,
Yes.
as you said.
Sure.
But Sydney's been great. We moved here at the start of the year. I was just saying to someone else, and my partner's originally from here, and she kind of coerced me into moving, which actually has been the best decision ever.
Sure.
Been
How much
beautiful.
time were you in LA for?
I've never really spent more than a couple of weeks at a time.
Okay.
Always filmed in other cities, and then always trekked back to Perth if I wasn't shooting, because it's the most beautiful city on the planet. And
Sure.
it's worth the commute.
Yeah. Why? What is that first thing you do when you land in home?
I don't know. My parents are really fortunate. We have a beautiful backyard with a pool, and if the season is warm enough, it's usually straight home and into the pool. And
Sure.
it's a great city. It's like it's so removed. I feel like the rest of the world kind of doesn't know what they're missing. But Sydney's been great. It's been really, really beautiful.
Sure. Now, a lot of actors do seem to make that process, that big step where they move to LA or New York or London and really kind of attack the industry. Is that something you would consider doing, or do you just love Perth?
I think there's some amazing opportunities in the States. I think there's a lot of young people that are incredibly ambitious. I like the mentality that you can achieve anything that the Americans seem to cultivate. But culturally, there's a divide in a way that I can't. The beaches, the food, it's not the same. So I choose to live here and just do long commutes continuously.
Wow.
All the time.
Wow. Do you have some sort of secret flying tips that we mortals don't know about?
I actually don't. I was in a really kind of freaky moment in a plane last year, and I haven't been able to get my confidence back with flying. I was flying home to Perth from Atlanta for the weekend, and it was on Halloween last year, and our plane dropped out of the sky.
You're kidding.
It was struck by lightning, and all the power went out, and we just kind of fell for what felt like a lifetime, but I'm sure it was until the plane kind of kicked back into gear, and then we coasted. And the guy sitting next to me had a few drinks, so he was just laughing, and I was not laughing, and I haven't been able to kind of get my, do you know what I mean? Get my grounding with it. So I don't really have any tips, to be honest. I'm the worst person to ask.
That is such a considerably worse story than I thought you were going to tell. I thought you were just sitting to Will.i.am next to him or something.
Yeah, no, I was not. That's for sure. But yeah, just kind of trying to get my grounding. But in terms of airports, if I can shed any light, it's just being as prepared as possible, because it's always something new.
Yeah, I've definitely got this imagery in my head of you with those little neck cushions and your headphones on and a hoodie on. Just don't talk to me. I'm flying.
I have that image of myself as well, but it's unfortunately not true to life.
Okay, now you are in Sydney, where very soon you're going to have your own art exhibition, and not just anywhere, at the New South Wales Art Gallery, which is huge.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this exhibition and what we can expect to see there?
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of under wraps. I'm trying to keep people who are coming kind of unbiased to what we're going to be doing. But I've recently been exploring a lot of my own kind of projects in my personal time. And the art gallery has been really good about letting me showcase those on one evening. So they have an art after hours, which usually happens on a Wednesday night over at the art gallery. So they've been kind enough to lend me an auditorium underground in the gallery on Wednesday next week, the 27th, to do a bit of an installation exhibition of my works and people that I've been collaborating with. And I'm kind of really nervous about it because it's a different side to the film and TV thing.
Sure.
But I am really excited about it because I've met some amazing creatives in the last couple of years in Australia. And this is just a body of work that we have all put together. So it'll be a really nice opportunity. It starts at 5 p.m. and there's 15-minute showings. Again, I'm not trying to be too airy.
Yeah.
But I don't want to shed too much light on it.
So there is a sense of mystery around
Yeah,
this
because I
project.
just want people to come into the space and kind of not know exactly what they're coming into. And that's exactly why I have sold tickets for free, because, you know, I didn't want it to be something based around money and exclusivity, and it's not unattainable. It's free. You can walk in. You know, we sell 90 tickets every 15 minutes, and we're almost sold out this morning, which is really nice.
Sure.
For 10 performances. And yeah, I'm excited to see the response.
Okay.
It'll be good.
Now, I have to get into Billy, because I feel like he'll get angry at me if I don't start talking about Billy. He's just standing there.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's not even looking at you, he's looking at me. So
No.
I'm getting really nervous. Obviously, Stranger Things was an absolute mammoth success around the world. Now, I want to take you back to that first audition. What inspired you to go for the role of Billy?
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I think it's always an interesting task to take a character like a stereotypical kind of villain or antagonist and humanize them. That's something I've always spoken about when we've been doing press for the second and the third season most recently, because I feel like it's something that not a lot of people think about. You know, that you can't just be bad for being bad. That seems kind of implausible to me. Everybody has a story. And that was something that we endeavored in the second and subsequently the third season, myself and the creators, the Duffer Brothers, to find in him, which was a really unique expedition. So going back to the audition point, yeah, just trying to shake things up, I think. At that point, it was more about, like, what can I do that's just wild? You know, to grapple the attention somehow of this enigma on the other side of the world that was the Stranger Things creators and producers.
Sure.
And subsequently, you know, has done, you know, it's such a valuable opportunity and has done a lot for me in my career.
Yeah.
But more so just an interesting expedition to discover what is a villain, you know, and how to humanize a villain, which was really fun for me.
Because as we watched his story arc progress, it turns out that Billy was incredibly multifaceted. He was very, very complex. And, you know, while he did reprehensible things, just unforgivable things, you almost learnt to understand why he did it. So what are your thoughts on Billy? How do you feel about Billy, even though he did some awful, awful things?
Well, I think he's extremely misunderstood. And I think that's what
You have to say that, though, surely.
No, but I think what happened in season... how it works with the show is that you'll get episode 1 and 2, for example, while they're writing 3 and 4. So you don't know what's happening in the next step of your story arc, which is kind of frustrating as an actor, because usually if you're doing a feature film, the way the narrative is constructed, you obviously know the beginning and the end. But with the show, you don't. So we had hit episode 4, and I didn't know what was happening in 5 and 6 in season 2. And I had a huge conversation with the Duffers around, well, he can't be bad because he's bad. Like, why is he going around tormenting all of these people? We need to, you know, think about having some moment. And they're extremely collaborative the way they work. So everyone's voice is heard on set. I wasn't stepping out of line by saying, write something that's not just bad because he's bad moment, right? And that's when they came back with the scene with my father in season 2, which I think takes place in episode 6 or 7, which totally humanizes that character, because you see this trickle-down effect his dad has had on him. I think you also label so clearly, and it's so blatantly clear, his father's insecurities, which I think is a nice reflection into Billy that the audience can kind of analyze for themselves. And even if you don't want to delve deep and kind of be cliche and feel like I have to say those things about Billy, it's plain to see the effect that his father's having on him. Which I think held my character in really good stead for the 3rd season. So the Duffers rang me 2 or 3 months prior to starting it. We were actually here for a couple of weeks, and they rang me and they were like, you know, where do you want Billy to go? Where do you want his story arc to go? And I had written this whole thing for them, and I pitched them this thing. And the great thing is, a lot of what I was saying was just wildly crazy, but they did take a small percentage of it, which was that I wanted to know more about Billy's biological mother, which obviously we see at the end of season 3. Sorry if there's any spoilers there, but
they've had their time to watch it. Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting, because I, you know, thought a character like this would have had a really interesting and potentially complicated dynamic with his biological mother. So I wanted that explored more.
Yeah, and so it does sound like there was like a fair bit of collaborative work with
Yes.
the Duffers. When it comes to the actual character of Billy, where were you wanting to take Billy, and what kind of sources did they want you to put into Billy?
I guess I was wanting to delve more into that humanized version of this villain.
Yep.
When I was presented with him kind of being the embodiment of evil in the third season, I was again like, how do we take that and make him humanized?
Yeah.
And not to like twist your question around again, but another example would be the sauna scene in the third season, because that was a unique opportunity where I think you could have gone in two directions. So one of the creators, Sean Levy, was directing that episode. As he does each season, he usually directs, 2 episodes, a block. We had a week to shoot that scene in the sauna. And there's just so much range there. Just that wasn't even necessarily in the writing to begin with, because he's pleading with them and then he's fighting with them and then he's falling apart and then he's going completely apeshit, on the kids. And I think that to me was the most rewarding week of my career.
Wow.
Just purely because, and I said this in a recent interview, for the first time ever, when we were doing the SAG panel last week in the States, which is obviously an audience full of actors, the Screen Actors Guild, for those who aren't aware, not assuming everybody knows. I sort of said it was the first time I ever came on set and owned my choices as an actor, because I think as a human being, I'm very self-conscious, and then more so as a professional, I'm even more self-conscious about my choices. And that week, that scene, that was what I wanted for Billy. That's what I wanted to do in my career. And I lost my voice every day, and I ended up smashing my head through that plate glass window, which wasn't supposed to happen.
Wow.
And we did these scenes where I would drag myself across the body, across the floor on the top of my toes, and I ended up peeling all the skin off my feet and just was exhausted and blah blah blah. But by the end of the week, I think I felt like I owned my space for the first time in, being at drama school and being in the drama program at high school, and all the jobs that I've been lucky enough to do. It was the first time I felt like I came into the space with a clear objective, a clear idea, and I felt like I had the platform to be able to convey that idea to Sean and the rest of the crew and be able to take up space in a really meaningful way. And what I mean by that as well is, like, you come on a set, you have to be very aware, obviously, of all the crew, and you are just one piece in the mechanism that is a film, right? So you don't take your moment until that camera rolls, because I've worked with a lot of people and it takes a lot of space up, right? So I needed to somehow figure out how to balance those two things, to feel like I came on with that presence and that confidence to make those choices, but also not take too much space up.
Sure.
And that was the first time I actually felt like I embodied what I wanted for Billy in the whole story arc of season 2 and 3 with his character.
Brilliant. And I really do need to revisit something you said very quickly there, and that is that the glass wasn't supposed to break. Was that not like safety glass? Was that...
No, because the way that it's constructed is usually it's safety glass if something's supposed to happen with it, or if you're supposed to engage with it, whereas this is just a sauna door that obviously someone has brought in, and it has that little square window that I'm looking through. But again, it's just to say I was just fucking screaming and crying and all the rest, and kind of just smash my head through this window.
Were you surprised when this happened?
I think I was surprised. I think I'm constantly surprised at myself since that moment, because we shoot almost chronologically, right? So after that moment, which is halfway through season 3, the whole rest of the season, I feel like totally jacked up on, I'm actually earning a living as an actor, which seems like a total pipe dream to me if you were to say that to my 10-year-old self, right? So for the rest of the season, I'm finally feeling like I deserve to kind of explore in this moment, and I should own that space rather than kind of cowering in the weight of my own self-consciousness.
Why is that a surprise to you that you're making a living as an actor? Did you...
Because I think it's kind of
plan to be successful?
I don't know. I think it's kind of surreal, and I think even in success, I'm so focused on remaining humble and grounded and not being disrespectful to anyone and not being arrogant, and just the burden of all of those things, I think, does take away from my self-confidence on a film set. And there's so many other character and story arcs in the ensemble going on in the story, and I don't want to take up too much room. Just come in, do my piece, fly home. You know what I mean? And this season, after that scene, the second half, the latter half of the season, that was the first time I felt like I'm going to come and, like, I'm just going to come and try and own my space and own the choices I'm making.
Fantastic. I mean, a friend of mine actually shared with me today that something that you do is tell your fans about the roles that you didn't get.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's important?
I think it's extremely important because I spent so long cowering in the weight of my self-consciousness. I'm trying to encourage other young or older budding actors to make decisions and to make crazy choices. And again, I've only been in the room to audition since I finished drama school twice in 4 years, because I self-tape at home, because I want the room to make those choices. So just, encouraging people. So recently I released my self-tape that I did 2.5 years ago for the lead role in The King, played by Timothy. And it was just, I think, a moment of like, look, here's what I did. I didn't get it. That's part of the industry. That's everything is an ebb and flow. Life is like that, and the film and television industry even more so. You know, you hit rock bottom before you do anything or go anywhere and do anything. So I guess my encouragement through that is just to take those risks and make those choices.
Sure. And if things do hit rock bottom, do you think you will go back to making coffee? I hear you're an amazing barista.
I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Next week, I could be back at the coffee shop. I don't take a moment of this for granted. And that's why I suppose I'm trying to do so many other things on the side. I released a podcast earlier this year, and the money that I made from that, was lucky enough to make from that, I just put back into doing my first short film, writing and directing my first short, which we did here in Sydney. And again, the DOP from Stranger Things actually was here for 2 weeks, and he did the location scout with me. He shot it, and he did our color grade. And I'm so fortunate.
Let's unpack these two things here.
Yeah.
I mean, to begin with, let's talk about the short film you shot.
Yes.
I guess watching it, it feels like this, skin stretching over bone and muscle, and very dramatic, almost dance moves, but theatrical movements. And it's dark, it's sultry, it's at times confronting, and also quite pretty. What was it that made you decide to dive into directing and to make something like this?
That sauna scene. It was the first time on set that I felt like I wanted to be able to control a story and a narrative, and I wanted to be able to explore it. And it was the first time I felt confident enough to kind of go, well, I want to completely self-fund, drive the thing, write the thing, find a producer to work with, and direct it, and direct the story arc. And my mum works in mental health. She, especially with women and babies suffering from postnatal depression. And it seems quite topical as well to me, whether abortion law related or not. A lot of women all over the world, but more so recently in America, have been forced to give birth to babies and dump them in public bathroom stalls. And while we were living in Atlanta, in a field, a child was discovered in a field, and all these kind of horrible things. So my story, my film, In Vitro, stems from a story that my mother told me, which is a longer story. But the story of the film is about a woman who is sexually assaulted and gives birth to her child in a public bathroom stall. But she creates a reality where her child was immaculately conceived and is free from sin. So our story is half animated, charcoal, which is her fantasy, and half shot in Sydney, which is the reality of her situation. So it was a nice opportunity to be able to craft a narrative, work with creatives, as I said, and just learn, I think, about all the minutiae of shooting a film, about how much coverage you need on the day, all the technical components.
Yeah, because your family were heavily based in production as well, weren't they?
Yeah, my mom was a
Production coordinator.
Yeah, and my dad's still a sound recordist. But I think I'm just fascinated by, like I said, it's a huge mechanism, and what are all those moving parts and cogs, and that are the crew, that make things run. So I found it to be one of the most rewarding experiences. But I think I first felt like doing it when we finished that sauna scene. I feel like a lot of things changed. The poetry, I'd never done anything with. The podcast wasn't born yet. It was nothing except for writing on the page. And 6 months later, it was my partner or my mum said, why don't you incorporate music? And I was like, well...
Because let's dive into that for a second. The podcast is, I guess it's a blend, it's a mix, where you marry poetry of yours with these soundscapes.
Yeah.
You're working with musicians who are creating these, they're less songs, they're more like moods. And it's quite otherworldly when you listen to it. When did you dive down into poetry? When did you decide that it wasn't something you were just going to put on a piece of paper and leave in your, underneath your pillow, but bring out to everyone else?
I mean, it's going to sound cliche, but when I fell in love, I feel like that was the first time I wrote my first thing. And
oh, you softy. Look at you.
I don't know, but in all seriousness, that's the truth. And there's a lot of things that I think come with a relationship. And my podcast is just a reflection of, again, the ebb and flow of that story and the greater narrative of my relationship. And then subsequently, I think it opened me up to write about a lot of things, about my ego, about narcissism, about my journeys and struggles with my self-confidence, all those kinds of things. But when I first brought it, I didn't know what it was going to be. And I had done a music video clip with Angus and Julia Stone. And
Chateau.
Yeah, which was so much fun. I mean, again, we shot that in Mexico over a couple of days when I was on the back end of doing a tour through Japan, and kind of just ended up flying over and had this crazy weekend. And so I reached out to them and I was like, guys, I'm not going to tell any other musician because I think they're going to think I'm crazy, but I've recorded me narrating my poetry, like a VO, right? And I said, would you be willing to compose something? Would you be willing to build a soundscape? And Julia was like, oh, so it's kind of meditative, like you were saying, like a mood. Sure. And then she sent back the Spaghetti track a week later, and that was our first one. And that became my calling card. And I reached out to over 200 musicians, I think 20 people engaged, 10 people delivered, and then we ended up using 5.
Wow.
So it's like a huge process of elimination because I have no stake in the music world whatsoever.
Sure.
So I used
a few of my friends told me that you spoke to them about tunes.
I literally messaged hundreds of people, and we're in production now for the second season of that.
Fantastic.
And I've been messaging and my friends will tell me I'm crazy. I'll message, Donald Glover and be like, mate, help me out with my podcast, and just kind of message everyone under the sun because I'm a firm believer in taking risks, as I said, in my work, and no longer being afraid to, what if they judge me? What if they won't work with me? What if it won't work? And just doing it, I think, is important to just kind of get it out there into the world. And, I'm happy that the podcast is out.
Now, I do want to, this might seem like a strange question, but have you done voice acting before?
No.
Because I have a theory that, your poetry is lovely, but if I were to give you the back of a cereal box, I reckon that you could still make it sound good.
Oh, that's very flattering.
I was actually going to write my own poetry, which was going to be crap, and then get you to read it out just to test this theory. Would you ever go down the route of voice acting? I mean, there's so many brilliant actors. Mark Hamill, for example, he's got a brilliant voice, and he does nearly predominantly character work now. So he's got this rich, deep voice, and I actually sometimes pondered if that was something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it. I think anything creative and anything that uses my voice, I'd be interested as a tool to use. I remember a couple of years ago, I thought that Rick and Morty was the best animated thing that had ever been invented.
Yeah.
And actually, after watching the first episode of
What?
season 4,
Totally.
I'm still convinced that it's like the most diabolically amazing thing to ever come out of sort of an animated world. And I remember a couple of years ago going down that route of being like, I'd love to be, to do something like that.
They ad-lib just a lot of that in the studio, by the way.
Yeah, it's incredible. It truly is amazing. But no, I wouldn't say no, definitely.
Okay. Well, it's just good to know that you're also a Rick and Morty fan.
Yeah.
Something that seems to have come up a few times during this interview I've noticed is that you seem to be talking about your uncertainty, about, almost like your confidence seems to have been held back.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is? Why do you keep thinking that you're with your poetry, you don't want to put it out there? The people you want to reach out to, you're almost afraid. Where's the origins of this?
Well, I kind of opened up recently. I'm not a big social media guy, but I opened up, a few months ago on my social media about, I guess, my journey. And everybody goes through stuff. I'm sure there's a handful of people in this room that have been through far more stuff than I have, and I think it builds your character, it strengthens your character. But if the bedrock of your story is ridden with moments, experiences that rock your self-confidence, then I think no matter how much you want to mask it as you grow older, it's still there. So I guess just as an adult in reflection, I'm grappling with stripping those masks that I've given myself. This is Dacre on build. This is Dacre with his mother. This is Dacre with his partner, and so on and so forth. And trying to strip, I guess, a lot of that stuff and do a lot of work on myself, psychoanalyzing myself and trying to figure out what all these walls that I have built are and how can I strengthen myself properly from really deep inside to make really interesting creative choices that I wake up every morning at 5 o'clock for the last 10 years going, there's something, I want to do it. What is it? And I have so many friends like that wake up and go, buddy, like, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is. I don't have the outlet. I don't know the people. I don't know how. And just growing a group of people of going like, let's figure out ways to use these outlets. Let's figure out ways to be collaborative and give each other a voice and collaborate and build. So I think a lot of that comes from my story. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we have got loads of questions coming in from people watching online in our audience. Lucy wanted to know, some people worry that being in the arts means instability. Have you ever felt like that? What is your advice for people who have those concerns?
Yeah, there's no stability. It's hard to have a relationship. It's hard to judge your future. There's a lot of things. But I think being a freelancer...
So get another job, Lucy, if you're watching.
No. Being a freelancer, I think it's just important to work hard. It's just important to not rely on what's coming and work hard in the moment and build and create your own stuff and be a barista and work the night job and do the gardening job. And I've worked at the butcher, McDonald's, I've kind of done it all.
No.
But the best piece of advice I ever heard, Lucy, wherever you are, is so my biggest mentor in the States, who's kind of become like a second father to me, who is also in the industry, said the biggest thing I ever had to learn was kill Wednesday. And I was like, well, what does kill Wednesday mean? And he was like, well, say you get a call on a Monday as an actor, you've got an audition on Friday. What do you do in between? Like you're sitting there on Monday and you might have work on Monday afternoon and Tuesday afternoon and you kind of got to kill time, right? So the best thing he ever learned was how to kill Wednesday. So all I've done in the last years, I've had 4 months off at a time, is create a routine, a structure. Get up, coffee, go for coffee with a friend, gym, go home, eat, work on something, yoga, go out with friends, socialize, spawn new ideas, repeat until you're on the set, right? And that's the biggest advice, I think, is just kill Wednesday and make yourself a routine.
Okay, kill Wednesday.
But potentially Tuesday, Thursday,
but also Tuesday,
Saturday, Sunday,
Friday.
A lot of days.
Who was this person? Were you allowed to know?
He's a screenwriter. He
Okay.
came at the first job I ever worked on. He script doctored, and I'm sure he would want to remain nameless in this circumstance.
But he knows who he is.
Yeah, he knows who he is.
Okay, you've mentioned a book before in an interview that you swear by in terms of acting and your craft. What is that book? And that one's from Ben.
It was like I literally got a book that was like IMDb, how to structure your craft and your career, like treating finding where arts meets commerce. I think is fascinating because there's far more talented actors than I am. Believe me when I say that, and I have met many far more talented individuals. In the last few years,
You're too tough on yourself. You are very talented.
But it's true. And the sad thing is, and I've heard a lot of other way more established actors say this, is that it's about finding the nuance between where arts meets commerce, right? Treating the industry as a business and you are a brand for a certain period of the time until you're on set and the camera's rolling, right? Up until then, a self-tape isn't a reflection of what you do on set. There's nothing about that the camera is never on you between those moments, unless you're in like an Aronofsky kind of. It won't be. It's not a reflection. So, I've lost my train of thought. But
About the book.
About the book. So this book basically laid out how to structure you as a brand, how to build you as a brand, and how to think about your career as a brand. And when I was at drama school, I analyzed two things they weren't going to teach me. One was the American accent, and if I wanted to transition into that market, I was going to need to work my ass off because I had a lot of work to do on that. And then the other thing was treating it like a business, a portion of it. And this book, I can't remember if this is what this person is alluding to or not, but there was a book that was like IMDb, structure your life, career, something like that we studied religiously in the third year of drama school, me and my buddy.
Brilliant. This isn't a question, but in a nutshell, how to learn the American accent quickly.
I just had this MP3 that I, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, on the bus, in the car, walking, just played it. Because there's no way you're going to learn it in Australia, being surrounded by Australians.
Okay.
You just have to keep one like AirPod or whatever in.
Make it happen. Right.
Yeah.
What was it like shooting the rom-com, The Broken Heart Gallery? Did you always want to do comedy?
This is the toughest experience of my career. I was working with amazing comedians. It's a completely different pace. The lines would get changed before we rolled. You'd lose your cue lines. They'd go out the window. I worked with some of the most talented comedians, and they just fly around the place. It's like not even the scene. The scene slips from your hands. And I'm kind of playing the straight role, like the stereotypical kind of straight, narrow kind of character in that film. And I don't know. It was the biggest learning curve to rock up on set and have all of your lines go out the window. I freaked out because I'm the guy that rocks up and I'm like, I'm not going to look unprepared in front of the crew. I'm not going to, oh my God, it's gone. I don't even know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Because if they've got multiple cameras rolling, or even if it's just, say you're the comedian and it's your coverage and I'm providing off-camera services.
It sounds like a sexy thing.
So I'm not on camera. I'm going to do whatever I can to make you look the best. But if you're flying all over the place and cracking jokes, and we're like 10 lines past my last line, and it was amazing because I have such, I already had respect for comedians, but just immense respect for comedians because like they don't even know if their joke's going to land or not, but they're prepared. It's like so much more work. It was amazing.
Is that something you'd like to do again, comedy? Or are you a bit scared?
I know, I'm a little bit scared. I want the film to come out first and see what happens and see how it went because I honestly don't know. On my part, everyone else did such an amazing job. I have to cover my ground there because they killed it. It was great.
Fantastic. So Sarah has sent a message in and she says, behind the scenes photos from Stranger Things gave the impression that there was great camaraderie between all the actors on set. Who did you get along with the most?
I
It's a
mean,
good question.
in season 3, it's pretty much me and Millie, me and 11. That's my story arc. She's English, so similar humor. Her parents get along really well with my partner and my friends who were there with me. I mean, you know, our humor's very blunt. We don't leave much to the imagination. So, so that was good. I got along really well with her. Again, because it's an ensemble, you're coming in and out of the narrative so much. So if you weren't shooting, which could be 2 days every 2 weeks, you weren't there. So everybody kind of flew away. But when we were on set, I mean, it's thick as thieves. Everyone gets along really well.
And surely there was some sort of rap party where everyone was in the one room.
I wasn't there.
No.
We were in Atlanta for 8 months, and I rapped a week before the rap party. Oh. And I was like, I'm getting out of here. I got to go home. Mum was like, where are you? It's been 8 months. Come home, see your sister. And so I was on the plane.
Yep.
Hence, that was the Halloween.
That was the Halloween. You shouldn't have gone home.
I was trying to get home.
Yeah. Look, I hope you learned from that lesson.
Yeah.
A few more questions coming in. You mentioned that after falling in love, you experienced great growth. What is it about your partner or relationship that taught you so much?
I don't know.
It's a very intimate question,
No,
whoever
it
that
is,
was.
but I think it's really good, and it's actually something that was addressed in the romantic comedy, right? This girl, the lead actress in the romantic comedy, her biggest predicament in her story arc, her character's journey, right, is she was with a partner who didn't let her be her, right? Who didn't kind of hold her up and promote and give her confidence in her own career and her desires to work in, it's a longer story, but work in an art gallery. And then my character comes in, and I'm the first male in her adult life that has kind of just been like, well, yeah, of course, do your thing, do your art gallery thing. How can I help? How can I? And he ends up helping her build in his hotel her art gallery, right? And all of this is to say, I feel like it's the same with my partner, is that I met someone who was willing to kind of hold me and help me up and help me learn and grow with me, which I think is a really interesting dynamic. And someone who's not, like in this girl's journey, someone who's not jealous of their path or I don't know. It's kind of,
I really hope she's watching this.
yeah, but I seriously think that's the case. Is someone who just wants you to be you.
Okay.
And I'm very eccentric and in my own ways, and I think finding someone who complements that, and that you feel equally is like, I want to help you with your career and what you're doing.
All right, we'll get one last Q&A, and that is, love your vibe and your sense of community in regards to arts. Would you consider becoming a mentor to budding artists and actors?
That's a hard question. I don't feel like I've earned that yet.
Okay.
I really don't. I don't know if this is going to be too long-winded to answer again, but I don't know if I've earned it. I recently got asked to go do a seminar at the Savannah International Film Festival. And I was hesitant. I was like, I don't think I'm worthy of giving a seminar. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing yet.
Do you know what? For a lot of this interview, I've just wanted to give you a hug and be like, "It's okay, man. You've got this."
But I'm sure at some point I will feel confident enough to do that. But I feel like, to answer this person's question, I'm still on that journey of, like, you know, figuring out who I am in my career.
Sure.
And then I feel like I'll feel confident enough to
mentor and help people with their careers.
Mentor's a big word.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of weight in that. And I guess all of that is to say that I just want to live up to that end of the bargain.
Yeah, definitely.
The short film will be coming out soon. The gallery's happening. Just signed a publishing deal to release a book, which I've just finished writing. Should be really exciting. I won't give anything away yet, but
you don't want me to ask you questions about that,
well,
do you?
there'll be some news about it soon, and you know, just I think spending time with friends and family over Christmas, and there's some really exciting projects on the horizon next year. Some really beautiful stories out there. And I'm excited to kind of dive in, especially after this is kind of this arc is coming to completion.
Sure.
With Stranger Things, I just really want to find another character.
Okay.
You know,
so are you suggesting that Billy's role in Stranger Things might not be over yet?
I can't say anything. I don't even know. I can't. I'm not going to be worked into this corner.
What if you don't say anything? What if you just gesticulate?
Allude.
Why don't you, can you just make a facial
Allude.
expression? Would that be
I can't give anything.
an
away.
eyebrow?
I can't. I'm not going to give anything.
Okay.
away.
Got a jacket, Stranger Things jacket,
Yes.
and you shirtless on the jacket, so it's quite strange.
On
for
the
me.
jacket?
Yeah, on the jacket.
Do you wear this jacket in Bondi?
Of course I do. Where else am I going to
Love
wear
it.
it? And I wanted to ask you, it's like, what is the strangest place you've seen yourself? What is the strangest bit of fandom that you've experienced because of the juggernaut that is Stranger Things?
I get asked this all the time. I haven't had any weird, like, I've got some experiences, but they're far too inappropriate for this setting. Like, if I was to explain to you what happened.
We're amongst friends. Do you think you should tell that story?
But more so in when this season came out, just like a heightened sense of awareness of like my personal space and all that sort of stuff. I think, which I even in the second season wasn't the same. So when we opened season 3 and we moved to Toronto to shoot that romantic comedy, just like people just trying to like any way they could get their way into our apartment and all that sort of stuff. And just like, it's just a different, that's what I'm saying as well. I feel like over in the States, it's a different level of boundaries. I mean, that's a generalization, but here I feel like it's different somehow. I feel like the Australian mentality that's cultivated maybe is a little bit more aware of personal space.
Oh my gosh, this sounds terrifying.
You know what I mean? So, but I haven't had any strange experiences, because obviously the name of the show, that's like the number one question.
Oh, of course.
Doing press will get was like, what's your strangest encounter with a fan?
Oh,
Which
great.
I don't mind. No, I wish I had an anecdote that was like really funny that I could give you. But they're all quite disturbing.
Okay. You make me feel like a total hack now.
No,
I should
you're
never
good.
have asked that.
You're all good.
Okay. Well, one final question then,
Yep.
so we don't finish on the strange question.
Yes. Yep.
You are on the front cover of a Men's Health magazine. I mean, that must be like, you know, a band getting on the front cover of the Rolling Stones for an actor, at least. How long did it take for you to get prepared and ready to be front cover worthy?
Man, I was total off season. That shoot was done down the road in my house, and I was like 2.5 months into off season.
Oh dear.
And you know, I'm sure there was some Photoshop work done in that.
Okay.
Photo. I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
Okay.
But no, I generally do stay in good nick. So it was flattering to be acknowledged for when that being in good nick was being in good nick, and not the off season not being in good nick.
I mean, you did spend a lot of time in a midriff on Stranger Things.
Yes.
So I think we got a good idea of what your peak on season is.
Peak on season.
Okay.
It's been captured.
It has
set
been
in stone.
immortalized.
So I can look back at it when I'm 40. Yeah.
Well, may I say thank you so much for joining us
for
here
having me.
on Build. A round of applause for Dacre Montgomery.
Thank you, mate.
You are watching Build Series Sydney.